We don't always, we think God's going to answer one way and He answers a different way. We think we know what the answer should be, but God has something else in mind. God doesn't always reward when, where, or how we expect or think He should. And that's part of the test of faith. God has promised to direct our paths. We talked about that 2 weeks ago. But not to shield us from the difficulties of life. And these difficulties serve to purify our faith and to make it more real. Now, we're going to come back to Hebrews 11, but if you do have your Bibles open, you can flip just a few pages to James chapter 1. And James talks about faith. James chapter 1, verse 2. Consider it pure joy. When? Whenever you face trials of many kinds. How can we consider it pure joy whenever we face trials of many kinds? It's because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. So our faith is going to be put to the test. And when it's put to the test, we ought to rejoice, have pure joy, because we know what's going to happen on the back end of the testing of our faith. If we go through the process that God wants us to go through, it's going to produce perseverance in us. And it's going to finish its work so that we can be mature and complete in Him. Some of you may be familiar with the names Rick and Kay Warren. He pastored Saddleback Church in California for probably 40 years. About 12 years ago, their son had tragically died. And I deeply admired the testimony of their faith through that experience. And I recall that him talking about faith, and some of the things that I heard him talk about faith in Hebrews 11 are the seeds for what I want to share with you over the next few moments. Because when you go back to Hebrews 11, over and over again, you see these two words: by faith. By faith, Abraham did this. By faith, Moses did this. By faith, so-and-so. On and on, the different characters in Hebrews 11, they did it by faith. And so we're going to express it this way. 4 things faith is. Faith is believing when I don't see it. You believe without proof of physical evidence. Faith is permitted to trust where it is not permitted to see. Hebrews 11:1 again. Now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. This faith, this confidence that we have, is based in the character and the nature of God. Again, when we get in our automobiles and drive around, we're putting faith in that automobile because that automobile is held up for us in the past. And we put our faith in God because we know that He has been faithful and true to us throughout our lives. He's taken care of us. And even when it doesn't seem like it, when it doesn't make sense, we still trust Him. We believe even when we don't see what it is that we're supposed to see happening. I illustrate it this way. Now, my kids used to hate it when I used them in sermon illustrations, but my kids aren't here anymore, so I'll use them. That daughter that I heard preach last week, she was about 3 years old. She came into the bathroom one morning while I was shaving. Now, I don't have an electric razor. I still don't. I put the white lather all over my face and take it off. Anyway, she's watching me. And she goes, "Daddy, why do you put that white stuff on your face?" And now you try to imagine explaining to a 3-year-old what the white stuff on your face does to make it easier to shave, but I tried. And then she says, "Well, why do you take it right back off?" And I tried to explain that to her, what a razor did. And then she asked me the big question. "Daddy, why do you shave every morning?" I'd asked myself that question a few times before as well. And I thought, none of the other answers I've given her have really clicked with a 3-year-old child. I'm going to have to answer this one in a way that she'll understand. I said, "Sweetheart, the reason that I shave every morning is because if I don't, your mother won't kiss me." She looked up at me. Utter disbelief. She could not imagine Mommy and Daddy not kissing. And I said to her, "If you don't believe me, go ask your mother." She looked at me. I hope I never forget these words because God spoke to me through these words. "Daddy, I always believe you." And God asked me a question then. Do you always believe me? Even when what you're going through doesn't make sense. The answer's not clear. You can't figure it out. But if I say something, whether it's through the word or in spirit, are you always going to believe me? And see, that's what believing when I don't see it means. That you're going to trust God even when you don't see it and you can't figure it out. Go on in Hebrews 11. It's also obeying when I don't understand it. Hebrews 11:8 says this, "By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going." Now, here it is, Abraham, God told him to go. But God didn't finish the sentence. He just said, "Abraham, take off. You're going on a journey." Now, if I'd have been Abraham, I'd have been going, "Okay, where do I put in my GPS? Show it to me on the map." God didn't do any of that. That's the questions. Where? How long will it take to get there? How will I know when I'm there? God says, "I'll let you know. Just keep moving." Obeying even when we don't understand it. Faith determines to obey even before getting the assignment. It's not a question of if we will obey, but how we will execute our predetermined obedience. I want to challenge you to do something this week. Just try it for a week and see what happens. Every morning when you get up, say these two words. Yes, Lord. Even before He gives you any assignment or speaks to you or tells you to do anything or this or that, just say, yes, Lord. That's preemptive obedience. You determine you're going to obey even before you know what the direction is. The spies going into the promised land's an example of, we count the cost in the sense of figuring out what we got to do, but we don't do cost analysis. In fact, if you try to do cost analysis of what God tells you to do, it's never going to make sense. And that's what happened to the spies when God sent them into the promised land. He wasn't having them go there to do cost analysis. It was not a cost benefit. It was to determine how we're going to take the land, not if we can, because God had already given it to them. We develop plans. We don't determine if it's plausible when God tells us to do something. So faith is obeying when I don't understand it. The third thing is this that I see in Hebrews 11. It's persisting when I don't feel like it. Hebrews 11:27, talking about Moses. He left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He persevered because he saw Him who is invisible. Think about it. Moses first endured 40 years of silence out in the desert. And then another 40 years of trials after encountering the I Am at the burning bush. But yet he held on and persevered by faith, because faith is based in expectations, not explanations. Faith doesn't lose hope or give up, no matter what. You see, faith usually involves patience. Why? Because God doesn't keep time like we do. How long can you wait when you don't know how long you got to wait? I can wait a while if I know how long I got to wait. But it's not knowing how long I got to wait, it becomes harder to wait. We mentioned Caleb 2 weeks ago. He had to persist even when he didn't feel like it. God had promised him, you're going to go into the promised land because you're one of the 2 spies that gave a good report. But yet he had to wander around with all the other Israelites because of their disobedience. But he held on in faith. So faith is persisting when I don't feel like it. And ultimately, and this is the ultimate test, trusting even if I don't get it. Trusting even if I don't get it. We've got all these names of people in Hebrews 11. We come to the end of Hebrews 11, and he talks about different people, doesn't name many of them. And he says in verse 38 that the world was not worthy of them. The world was not worthy of them. Why? Verse 39. These were commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised. God had planned something better for them. This is the ultimate measure of faith. What do you do when you never see what you're believing God for? We all know people, and you may be one of those even now, who are praying for family members. And you know people who prayed for their family members, and those family members did not become believers before that person died. But people of faith keep believing even if they don't receive it, that God's going to work and God's going to act. Now, in that particular example, there is the free will of the person you're praying for that's a part of the equation. And what we can really be praying for is that God will work in their lives. God will open doors for people to share faith with them and share Jesus with them. Still their responsibility to choose or reject Christ. But even if you don't get what you're asking for, are you going to continue to believe? Corrie ten Boom put it this way: never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God. Now, yes, when we go through this ultimate test of faith, it may cause a few doubts to arise in our hearts, but doubts don't have to defeat us. In fact, George MacDonald said, reverent doubt is necessary for devoted faith. I remember an encounter Jesus had with someone in Mark chapter 9, and after the conversation, the man said to Jesus, I do believe, help my unbelief. He had a measure of faith, but he realized it maybe wasn't all it needed to be. Help me to overcome that. You see, doubts can be the building blocks of greater and higher faith. And it's not the amount of the faith, but the object of our faith that's important. The Bible doesn't say to have faith in faith, it says to have faith in God. So let's go back to James chapter 1. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work. That's the hard part. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. You're going to have trials in this life. Some of those trials are going to be sourced in other people. Because some people are a pain and you know what. Some of those trials you're going to bring on yourself because you make mistakes. And a few come actually directly from Satan himself. Jesus put it this way, in this world you'll have troubles. So this is my reminder to you if you're going through a difficult place right now in your life. This is a testing of your faith. This is a testing of my faith. Would you say that one time with me out loud? This is a testing of my faith. Whether it's now or this week or next month or whenever it is, when you're going through one of those trials, remind yourself, this is a testing of my faith. And as you're going through it, what do you need to do? Let perseverance finish its work. Perseverance is not something we're doing. Notice how it was worded. Go back to that slide just a second, if you can. we're not the ones that are developing the perseverance. We're not the source of the perseverance. The perseverance is coming to us. Let perseverance finish its work. Now we can go back to the final slide. Let perseverance finish its work. Perseverance is what Jesus, through His Spirit, is doing as we surrender and submit to Him. Don't try to overcome the trial alone. What do? You lean into Jesus. You lean into Jesus. Trials are opportunities for Jesus to transcend the situation, to transform our spirit, and transfuse Himself into us. When we let perseverance finish its work in us, it moves us from I think I can, like Thomas the Train. It moves us from I think I can to I know I can't. But it doesn't stop there. It goes on to I know Jesus in me will. It is progression. It is a spiritualized determination to seek and be poor in spirit. A surrendered confidence in God. Perseverance does not make me mighty. Perseverance makes me mature. And what does maturity mean? If you've got King James in James 1, I think it uses the word perfect. It'll make us perfect. We've got to understand what the original word meant there. It meant perfect, but not perfect in the sense that we don't make mistakes, we never strike out, we never do anything wrong. It's perfect in the sense that we are complete and whole and being the person that God intended and created us to be. And so that's the reason I like the wording better of mature and complete. If we let perseverance finish its work in us so that we move from I think I can to I know I can't to I know Jesus in me will, He's going to infuse His Spirit into us and transform us and change us and work within us so that we will be complete and mature as He intends us to be. It changes our prayers from help me God to have me Jesus. Those are two entirely different prayers. Nothing wrong with praying help me God. But how transforming it is to pray, have me Jesus. It's not just asking God to make us stronger, but it's surrendering to Him as we draw near to Him. Paul put it this way, I no longer live. Galatians 2:20. I no longer live, but Christ lives in me and through me. I become a dead man walking because Christ lives in me. James put it this way later in his epistle, draw near to God, and what will He do? He'll draw near to us and give us the perseverance to see us through the trials of our faith so that we can become mature and complete, the person that God intended us to be as He changes us from the inside out. I debated about a closing song for this morning, and I really debated about maybe we'll sing the song that we sang last week at the close, Trust and Obey. And someone picked it out earlier, so I'm glad I didn't say let's do it again or we'd be singing it a third time. But I do want us to, if you will, open your hymn books. It won't be on the, I didn't give these words to them. We're going to sing 244, Draw Me Nearer. If there's anything that I hope you remember out of the 3 Sundays I've been with you, the most important thing we can do in our lives is not be stronger spiritually, but be closer to Jesus. And the closer we get to Jesus, the more He's able to transform and change us into the person He wants us to be. Stand with us. Our song leaders are going to come. We're going to sing. We'll do all 4 verses. Draw me nearer. And then we're dismissed, adjourned, whatever, after that. God bless you. You're dismissed.